It's time to rock and roll!
I don't blind buy movies anymore.
Mm.
There's one movie I blind bought back in early 2022, and a lot of people spoke very highly of it, and it was No Way Home, right? And everyone was so excited and everything like that. And I
You
talked about
wait,
this
I'm
on the pod.
sorry. You blind bought No Way Home? I thought you no, you didn't see that in
I
theaters.
didn't see it in
Okay.
theaters, no. No, I saw
It
Matrix
was already
Resurrections instead because I'm a good fucking person.
sure,
I
but
could.
was it on digital already? Within
I didn't buy it on digital. I bought a
you
physical copy.
what?
Because I love Toby.
Oh
I
my
love
God,
I love
okay.
Andrew and Tom as well, but Toby's my boy. And everyone was like unanimously being like, "This is the best shit ever. You're gonna love this. This is the movies are back type shit, you know." And obviously, history has vindicated me because now everyone's like, "Yeah, that maybe it doesn't hold up, but it was great to watch a movie in theaters together again." I'm like, "Yeah, like, obviously
That's
you
genuinely my
fucking
response
yeah
to
you."
the T.
Yeah,
You know
yeah, I'm
what?
sorry. I know my beloved guest co-host Jack Godwin enjoyed it first round, and so did Gene, who is not here today. But Jack, hello, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I just think it's funny, knowing how much of a Spider-Man fan you are and how much you love the Raimi trilogy. Just like imagining like little Diego thinking that there's gonna be a huge multiversal Spider-Man movie and you're gonna blind buy it. Like that's just a whole different
Um,
situation than you'd be
Um,
expecting.
well, I'm also coming off like in for Matt Gringo and I's correct opinion, we're coming off like a very positive reaction to Eternals.
yeah.
We're the two that really liked it on planet Earth. And so I was like, you know what? Maybe something's working here. Maybe I'll give this one. Raimi's back at that point.
Maybe
They've announced
John
Raimi's back.
Watts cooked. Who knows?
Yeah. I'll that guy's gone now, but I liked Clown Cop Car and
Oh
Homecoming
yeah.
a lot to my co-host Maxwell Deering. How are you?
I, I'm tired, but I'm all right.
You hanging in there?
Um, yeah. You It's funny. I have not revisited No Way Home since I saw it in theaters. Pretty sure at the time, I'm not going to look at my rating. If I didn't give it a like, I probably said it was, I'm pretty sure I gave it like four, maybe five. So I don't know. The larger point of it is, I haven't thought about that movie since I saw it. The only time I ever think about that is when people are talking about it. But like, I think I liked it fine, but it wasn't I don't really ever need to revisit Marvel films or that Marvel film. And uh, sorry, I'm really trying to like pull up my thoughts here.
No, it's
Uh,
fine. I mean, yeah.
it's mostly a film that I think is like it's probably fine, but I don't want to go back and rewatch it to really validate or invalidate what I thought initially because I don't think it's worth the 2 hours it needs to put into it. So like,
Yeah.
but and there's a part of me is like I should just go back and change my letterbox review, even though I haven't looked at it. I mean, you can look up my letterbox view of it now and see what I thought, but I just think about I'm like I'm probably never going to revisit it again. So maybe that's all I really need to like know about my thoughts on the film. Does that make any sense?
No, it totally does. Because look, most movies are not life-changing, and our response to them is often evolutionary, right? We grow as people, we grow with our relationship to people as well as art and media and entertainment. Um, and so like look, as much as I shit on that terrible, terrible dog shit movie people should be ashamed of championing today, ashamed of themselves and their families, like, if they do enjoy it, like ultimately that, you should keep that for yourself. That's fine. You know. My relationship to horror movies, is drastically changed from even 10 years ago. Definitely longer than like 15 years ago. Like 15 years ago is probably like when I really start trying stuff out. Actually, no, it was less than 15 years ago probably. But I'm like discovering my love of horror movies and like what works, what doesn't. Why do people like the weird offbeat uh Halloween 3? Michael Myers isn't even in that one.
Mm.
And then I see it and I'm like, oh, this is the fucking shit. So we're here to talk about a lot of stuff today. We're gonna catch up with Jack and Max. We're gonna talk about what makes a great horror sequel, great horror sequels. I asked people through crowdsourcing on Twitter to respond and give us some very interesting answers, some traditional, some not so. The great Jordan Crucchiola gave a very interesting response. One I agree with, and one I'm like, what is that? Not shooting it down at all. I'm just very curious about the reasoning behind it because I love hearing the wild horror takes. You will never find wilder takes than in horror fandom communities about the sequels.
Comic book Twitter.
No, not wild, annoying. There you go.
It's
Comic book Twitter is annoying. Horror Twitter, horror Twitter is like, what? Halloween 5 is actually the best sequel or something like that. And it's like, look, I don't agree. But if someone thinks that, or like people really like Halloween 6, I'm discovering
mm,
Wait, which one?
that's
I
that's
lose
the one.
track of the
That's the one with the
Halloweens.
cult. That's the one with the cult.
the Magic Stones.
Oh God,
In
I
fairness, the people that really like Halloween 6, they really like the producer's cut.
Yeah. And I'm not even shooting that down. I mean, that's again, that's what I love about this stuff. It's like that is fucking wild to me, but like the love is honest, and that's really
Yeah.
cool. Um,
Oh, okay. I'm remembering this one. I had to check whether I'd seen that movie.
yeah, it's the one with Paul Rudd.
Yeah,
Yes.
that too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, not the best Halloween movie. But I
It's
know I feel
wild.
like I have some of those takes myself because I horror is such a I guess a visceral kind of experience a lot of the time. So like the mileage does really vary with what affects people, but also like sometimes something can come across as just terrible to someone, whereas to someone else it can be terrible in a fun way, like it can be a kind of like a put it more in the sort of B movie realm that you can really enjoy. And then someone else can see just like be depressed by it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, we will get to those takes. But first, Jack and Max have been very, very busy. Max, you were in the middle of a festival over in your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
What is that like? You met some very cool people.
Yeah, so I it's called the Imagine Film Festival. It's, I think, more or less the only like genre film festival out here. And sorry, I was reading a text from Mike.
You're good.
And I attended it back in 2019. I was a volunteer, and I'm kind of sort of doing that again, a bit closer to the staff now, just because I had some interactions with them. That's just cutting down the story. But yeah, so I haven't really seen anything yet. I haven't had time because I've just been between work and having to go up there, and Seuss is out of town. I've just been really busy. Um, fuck. What am I talking about? Oh, okay. Yeah. So the big guest of honor was Crispin Glover, who I did not take pictures with, but he is as eccentric and weird as you think he might be. If one is to just go by the brief presence that I saw of him, I took like a back photo of him. Um, he has a new movie out called Mr. K. It's by a Dutch director, and I liked the movie for the most part. No, I'm kidding. The actual guest of honor was Phil Tippett, and I had planned to meet him just due to the festival stuff and like having like a helping out with an interview with him, but that didn't happen. Instead, as I was wrapping up last night, no, the night before, Friday night, what is it, Sunday? Yeah, Friday night. Uh, sorry, time has no meaning when you're dead tired. But as I was wrapping up stuff, I went to have a drink and I was sipping off a whiskey, and lo and behold, who sits next to me? Bill Tippett, and he has a little bit of an entourage. Just like there's another man with him called Frank uh, Petza. I really don't want to butcher this man, but Frank Petzold. I apologize. Frank Petzold also has VFX credits on Starship Troopers, the latest All Quiet on the Western Front, and Armageddon. So I think they are buddy buddies, and they were just talking along with some other people who were just stopping by, and I just started listening in. And then that's when I decided to just like, hey, hi, Bill Tippett, big fan. My dad wanted to say hi. I'm just here to like listen because big fan of your work. Um, and then from there we started talking. We had a few drinks, and yeah, that I mean, obviously a wealth of knowledge for how long he's been in the industry. Um, and he has views that you do find surprising and others that you don't find surprising. This is not a like he's not like a Kermit or like right wing anything, but like just you know, he has thoughts for somebody who has been in, the industry for as long as he has and as innovative as he is. But that was really fun. I took a photo and yeah, I mean, I get meet your heroes. That's kind of the long and short of it. So yeah, Phil Tippett was a great guy, obviously, if you know his body of work, which I can't imagine you like movies and no, that's not true. I can imagine you like movies and you don't know him, but just know he's helped craft many of your favorite movies. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so fucking cool. I know you were not a fan of that picture you took with him. I think it's a great picture. I think you should get that framed. I'm not even joking. I mean
Mm.
that's so cool. If I had a picture with Phil Tippett, I would get it framed. But again, that's just me.
That's
But
very cool.
yeah, that is awesome. But Jack, you have also been up to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I was at the Vancouver International Film Festival this year, and I tried to max out and see as much as I could, and I saw some really good stuff. Just run through a bunch of them. There was a South Korean movie called House of the Seasons. That was really good directorial debut. It was like a family drama, but there's kind of like a turning point midway through that kind of recontextualizes everything. And it was a beautiful movie. I really recommend people checking that out. There was a Nora, which I don't know if that's dropping on streaming kind of soon or wide release or something.
I think it's wide release. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No. Honora is is excellent, and I do recommend people see that with a big crowd as well. It got like a big response. It's very funny, and then it's very like. I mean, I won't go into detail because I think some of the surprises are what's fun about it, but it kind of like it's like half a rom-com, and then it kind of becomes like after hours for a while, which is, I mean, I wouldn't say I love After Hours, so I'm not going to say it's as good as After Hours, but it's that kind of vibe. Um, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. Um, there's Bird, new Andrea Arnold movie, which
Oh, whoa.
is
Sorry. Yeah, please go into that one.
yes, that one is great. You've got like I never, you know what? I've tried a million times and I never get his surname right, but Barry Keegan,
I think you
Kogan.
got it right.
Okay.
I think that's how
Yeah,
you pronounce it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Barry Cohen. Kill.
Oh, okay,
We
never
we
mind. I
all
don't
said
know.
three different pronunciations, so who knows?
For the audience knows who he is. Those
Yeah.
are the people that listen to this.
He's your favorite
Yeah.
weird little freak, and I say that with admiration.
Yeah.
And he's playing a weird little freak in this.
Fantastic.
But yeah, he's very like it's very like it's like a kind of like a bit of a magical realism, gritty story set in Northern Kent in England. Um, and it's a great movie. I really enjoyed it. And Nakia Adams is the I think it's her first film, and she's the lead in this, and she's amazing. And she's a 12-year-old who lives with her dad, who's played by Barry something, and
Barry K.
and he comes on screen, right, and it's just that you'll get a reaction immediately. He comes in, he's like topless, covered in tattoos. His name is Bug, and he drives a scooter around town, and he it's a very big comedic performance. He spends a lot of the movie singing Blur songs to a bug, to a frog, sorry, in order to try and coax hallucinogenic chemicals out of it. It's very entertaining, and then when it's following the lead, it's like way more of an emotional coming of age story. Um, and then he just comes in now and then, and it becomes like a very funny, strange movie for 5 minutes, and then he will disappear again. But yeah, no, and then of course Franz Rogowski is in it too, and he puts in like a really peculiar, interesting performance there. And yeah, no, I really liked this one. That was another great one for me. So I'd recommend people check that out, especially if you like Andrea Arnold's other movies.
Yeah, I really love her stuff. I didn't see Cow, but like American Honey, that was the first one of hers I saw, and then like that just opened that was a gateway movie for me, you know. I really, really am looking forward to this, so that's cool to hear.
Yeah.
And Franz Rogowski was excellent in Passages, by the way. If people
Yes,
haven't
yeah.
seen that movie, go watch it. That was one of the best of
On
last year.
movie, I keep meaning to get to it, but that means I also need to use movie more,
Yeah.
which is very difficult at
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, I tell you what, Mubi is something which constantly has amazing things on it, and I never go on it. I'm always constantly like, I should boot up Mubi. But yeah, it's worth checking out her stuff. Yeah, I mean, I should slim down this list, otherwise I'm going to keep us here all day. But there was a an interesting movie called Rumors. Guy Madden. Um, I haven't watched any of because it's a group of directors. Guy Madden, Evan Johnson, Galen Johnson, and they made movies together in the past, and I've heard they're bizarre. And that's all I really know. This one was crazy. It's got Kate Blanchett in it and Charles Dance. And it's basically
Oh,
there's a
is that the TV show about her being a um like a canceled journalist or something?
no, this this is about a G7 summit, but it
Oh, okay.
basically it runs with the idea that when you see the G7 summit and you see all these world leaders walking together in the distance, talking, and you don't know what they're saying, but it's kind of weird because you're like, how are they having small talk? What could they possibly be saying? It's kind of a bit of a photo op. And here it posits that what they're actually talking about is like soap opera, melodrama, and the Canadian Prime Minister at the last G7 summit slept with the British Prime Minister, and he's a bit of a ladies' man, and it's just like it's very silly, very like funny, and they make a lot of jokes in it about how you're thinking that they're doing political satire, but what they're actually doing is just an absurd story involving mud zombies and a giant brain. And it is just completely bizarre, and was a lot of fun. And there's a lot of jokes, like it's Canadian filmmakers, and there's a lot of jokes about the Canadian Prime Minister that went down very well for a Canadian audience. Yeah, and I also going back to horror. The two highlights for that is there was I'm not sure how to pronounce it because it's not actually said in the film, but Freywaka, which is Frewaka. It's directed by Aislinn Clark, and it's billed as like the first ever Irish language horror. And it's really interesting. It's kind of like, I mean, it's at times it's kind of a bit Wicker Man, it's a bit hereditary. But you've basically got this woman who's a care worker in Dublin, and her mother commits suicide, and she doesn't want to deal with her possessions because she had a really terrible relationship with her. So she takes a job looking after a woman who's just left a psychiatric facility out in the country. And then she basically has this relationship with this woman, and spooky stuff happens, and it's all very metaphorical. It's a lot of stuff about the overpowering presence of the church in Ireland, and like the things that women have been through over the centuries there. And it was really fascinating. It was very scary. Great imagery, amazing sound. I really recommend this. I hope it like gets to the people who like it because I had a great time. It's one of the best horror movies I've seen in a while.
And what was the name of that one again? Because
The,
that sounds like my shit too.
yeah, it's called Freywalker. Um, but unfortunately, I was trying to figure out how to say it. They don't say it in the movie, and Google Translate doesn't help. And there's an interview with the director where it's a text interview and they ask her, how do you pronounce it? But it's text. So they just put the title of the movie there. It's a great interview. But I was like, this is not helpful.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm gonna check out that movie and that interview because that's fucking hilarious.
But the other thing, another horror movie that I'm sure you guys would be interested in is and may probably have heard about already, Presence,
Hmm.
Steven Soderbergh. And the premise with this is that it's a very familiar story of um, a family moving into a house, and there's a haunting there. There's a presence, and the difference with this film is that it is filmed from the perspective of the spirit. So the camera is constantly from that point of view, and it's just a series of oneers moving through the house, watching the family as like, this kind of outsider perspective. Um, and I think your mileage will vary with this because, like, in terms of like, the plot and the twist and the reveals and things like that, I could see a lot of people being like, "Oh, I predicted where this was going," um, or things like that. But what I found fascinating was just the format of it itself, because maybe with a different director, it would have been just a gimmick. But Soderbergh like films it really well, and you slowly find out about the family, but you also start finding out because you're as you're watching it, you're thinking where the camera is moving is telling me something about what this spirit is and where it comes from, and you slowly learn things that way. And I think it was really fascinating, and there's some interesting sort of reverse scares in it where it's not someone perceiving a spirit in a sudden jump scare moment, but you're it's almost the characters perceiving you as a viewer, sort of looking down
Hmm.
the camera in the moment. It's very unsettling. And some good performances in there as well. Lucy Liu's in it.
Oh shit, I did not know that.
Yeah, 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 she just she plays kind of just like a mother who is clearly like obsessed with her work and not paying equal attention to both her children. And she just plays that really well. And yeah, no, it was a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. But I do think that like you'll get different reactions from the people who are like watching it, like just interested in the way it's made, versus and the effect that that can have versus people who are just, they want to, they're more interested in the plot. Then it's
Mm.
pretty light on that front. But yeah, it was really interesting.
Goddamn, I love Soderbergh. He's always trying shit. Even when it doesn't work,
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, like, you gave that a shot. I've never seen that before.
yeah,
Oh,
100%.
yeah, that's awesome. Really looking forward to that. Be honest, is Matt Damon in it?
I mean, he could have been behind the camera the whole time.
He just kept popping up in everything he was doing recently. But okay, yeah, I mean that's terrific. Um,
Yeah,
sounds like
there were yeah,
it was a really great time.
no, there was a lot of good stuff that festival. Some stuff I haven't mentioned as well, but like I mean, like if anyone checks out my letterbox, which I'll probably plug at the end of this, you can see the other stuff I saw. But yeah, no, there's some interesting stuff coming.
Yeah. Um, I'm gonna stick with Jack for a second because I know you also saw Terrifier 2. The original plan for this episode was going to be to talk about Terrifier 2 and Smile 2 and Terrifier 3 as well. Um, and then eventually just kind of was like, why don't we just do the best horror movie or favorite horror movie sequels, just because it's kind of in the air right now. And it looks like the Terrifier franchise is going to stick around for a little bit, and uh I think it's really fascinating because that franchise is genuinely independent, made without studios, and it's just a guy who loves gory horror movies went out and made this character and now this franchise, and it kicked Joker's ass at the box office, which is genuinely very inspiring. And
Mm.
creatively invigorating in a time when I'm hearing stuff like, "Oh, survive till 25" in the arts, and then other people deeper in the arts are like, "That's not how that works." Um,
I'm sorry, I
eh,
thought horror was on the back end. I thought we need to be concerned about the amount of horror that we're getting and it bloating and whatever do you
yeah,
mean? What is
that
this?
fucking Hollywood Reporter article is such a fucking obvious like industry studio plant reaction to be like, we gotta fucking talk. We can't. Oh no, we need to. We can't make enough money. The Joker 2 bombed, and I'll say this. Part of the reason why I'm so happy Terrifier 3 is doing so good is that it not only like fucking wiped the floor with Joker 2 at the box office. Joker 2 is like such an obvious studio green light. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Joker made $1 billion,
Mm.
bring everyone back, give them more creative freedom, allegedly.
Mhm.
And make another Joker movie. We'll get another $1 billion. And it just didn't work out. Part of that is probably because Todd Phillips is a hack and a fucking a lot of stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna tone down, but he's a lot of stuff, and
I would also wager maybe they just didn't need a sequel.
and
Like
and that
you don't
too.
have to like the first film, but like I'm also good. Like you could have stopped. Like we were fine. Like there was nothing about it that screamed, "Give me a sequel." I say that someone who had seen it, but from what I've heard about it, but even just in general, it was like you said, it was a very obvious green light. But it was like could have just said, "Nah." Like
Yeah,
why? Why?
yeah, and I mean that's so awesome. They basically beat the algorithm with the Terrifier sequel, and that is cool. That's very cool. Jack, we didn't watch Terrifier 3 though. We saw
No.
Terrifier 2 and the first Terrifier. I'd seen the first Terrifier a while back. I don't like it. Um, but you're the guest here, so I want you to go first. And then we are going to go to Smile 2 in a second before talking about other good horror movie sequels. But uh yeah, Terrifier. What are your thoughts, Jack? Oh, also, I should have mentioned at the top, Jack's having camera issues, so that's
Yeah.
his thing from Halloween 3. I'm also repping Halloween 3 with my shirt and my
Oh,
background.
yeah. Well,
I'm
you
just
can't.
repping Dracula. So
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you can't see, but I'm wearing a "They Live" t-shirt.
nice.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, phew, I did not see Terrifier 3, but I feel like I've watched maybe 10 Terrifier movies because I did not have a good time with these first two. And I think everything you said about like the sort of the independent nature of it, beating the algorithm, all that kind of thing, that is like the extent of the good things I can say about the Terrifier movies. Like I feel good for its success in that way, but I find myself having to like measure myself because I had such a negative reaction to these that I don't, and I know that they're popular, so I almost want to understand. Uh, because I even know there's a lot of there's people I follow, people who are into cult horror movies who are, can kind of go to bat for this a little. And I really don't understand what people are seeing in it. And I want to rein in my negativity. I never want to say, never hate a movie, appreciate the work that went into it. But I think here it's very clear with both the Terrifier movies that I saw, uh, that there's some really good practical effects there, some really good uh, work with the gore effects, and everything else about the production kind of undercuts that a little bit for me. There's a lot of stuff that I'm like, it's not, the way it's lit, the way the sound is in the scene, just the way it's shot, the distance, the length of the shots, the editing, everything just made it so that I was not scared at any point. I was not shocked at any point, and I was just like mildly irritated. Especially
You might be the first person I've ever heard say they weren't shocked at a Terrifier film. That
well,
given yeah,
that
given
might
what I've
be
heard about the
revealing about
effects.
myself. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Well, I just say like I guess not shock in the sense that I would be cringing, like it's painful to watch, this is brutal. But I felt like it really was just centering the brutality. I wasn't there wasn't a scare to it as well. There wasn't like tension before. Many of the scenes are set up in a very similar way. Um, you know, Art the clown turns up, does some sort of miming, does something horrible. They cut away, they cut back, he's done something even more horrible, and then does some more miming. And it just feels very flat to me, and it wasn't getting a reaction, you know. I wasn't jumping in my seat, or anything like that. I was kind of waiting for it to be over. Um, and I think a lot of that is because that art as a character doesn't really work for me. Like I didn't find him scary. So it was more like just as I was watching, I was just like, I guess interested in where they were going with like, what's the next crazy thing they can do with these effects? And that was the only thing really driving me. And I think maybe like I will say the second one is does look better. And there were a few scenes here and there that worked. Like there's a scene in a Halloween store in the second one, which is just very unsettling. And the main character is sort of having her sort of first encounter with this horrible demonic killer, and he's just like trying on glasses and stuff, uh, like in the merch section, and just there's a weird sort of awkward comedy to it that kind of worked for me in that scene. And I think like maybe that's what is working for everyone else around it is that kind of offbeat humor mixed with sheer shock of like the gore. But yeah, no, I mean, I wish I liked it more because it sounds like a fun thing to get in with everyone loving these Terrifier movies at the moment. But like, I really just had a very, very bad time. And also, Terrifier 2, you did not need to be 2 hours and 18 minutes long.
Yeah. Everything Jack said is correct. But and you're right, I am trying to temper like my frustration with these because it's not like shooting shots at a studio that spent $200 million. Like I know some people are like kind of defending Joker 2. Having not seen the movie, I'm just gonna say like you don't really need to defend it's not like some underdog.
Mm.
I promise what you're defending about that movie, other artists have done better and in more interesting capacities in original standalone movies and in other sequels, I'm sure. Like I truly
and more
believe that.
cheaply.
And more cheaply, yeah, you know. So don't worry. Joker 2 bombing is a good thing for maybe humanity. Um so I'm not I'm gonna, I'm taking my foot off the gas pedal to talk about Terrifiers, even though I don't like them at all. And I didn't bother with Terrifier 3 after all, because I was like, I don't need this, but I do want to understand it, and I think this is as someone who came to horror later in their life, like I bristle up a little bit sometimes when like I always bring it up now, but I think there's I can't put it together in my brain, but there's something happening here, not in a good or bad way, but just something I've noticed, like the way the David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy is treated by like the diehards that love like Terrifier 2 or maybe Halloween 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, right? Like that's how I feel about the Terrifier movies. So I think there's just like a dissonance I have. Like we're going two
Mhm.
different ways down the street, or we're going down two different paths. And I really do admire the craft of the effects in Terrifier because that's where I think all the talent went. That's not true.
Mhm.
David Howard Thornton as Art is like very committed and I think a really expressive performer. That guy is like a lot of fun to watch. That's why you watch this, right? The effects, him, and now Lauren Lavera, who I think is actually quite good as the final girl in these movies. Who, to his credit, Damien Leone, the writer and director of this franchise and the creator of it, um, he heard the complaints that people were put off by like the treatment of women in the first film, which I agree, I'm not a judgment I'm not judgment qualifying him as a person, just like as an artist. I'm like, hey, that's like fucking weird. There was some weird shit in that movie, dude. Um, and I want to better like understand because I listened to interviews with him. There was Mick Garris when he had his post-mortem podcast. He had Damien Leone on, and Mick Garris also brought up like you maybe been accused of like the movies being a little misogynistic, and God bless Mick Garris, but he totally downplays, I think, some real gross shit in these movies. And again, that's not saying Damien Leone's like a sick freak or anything like that. It's just like, so he probably just thinks like, oh, this is a cool way to use the gore effect. And some way he's right, Like when the woman is cut in half in the first movie from the crotch down because she's hanging upside down, like it's a very effective like sequence because it's disgusting and vile and repugnant, and
Mhm.
it in its own way, very impressive. It's also like, wow, I don't ever need to see that. I didn't need to see that. I didn't feel good watching it. It's sure impressive. I don't like it. And I'm also trying not to be like Siskel and Ebert when they're like really puritanical about like horror movies in the 80s, I think they were like they were really hard on like the Friday the 13th movies, right? Which is like I think maybe part of the charm of Terrifier as well for people. Like we don't
Mhm.
have cheap genre shit getting into the mainstream anymore like those movies. Also, because Friday the 13th has like a fucking
A shoestring budget.
a shoestring budget and like
They're
navigating the
pornos.
rights. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're basically like porn without the penetration. At least sexually. There's penetration with like knives and stuff like that. Um, and so there's something there, and like Damon Leone talking about like he did a really great interview with the Dead Meat podcast with James Denise, and he's talking about like people criticize the length of these movies, but in his mind, what people don't understand is that he needs scenes to be a certain length so you can establish the characters before you kill them, and I that's not incorrect. I would disagree with his assessment of his own work because I think you establish characters in the beginning of your film and not in like the scene or one or two scenes leading up to the kills. And
Yeah.
I think Jack is chuckling because he
Uh,
agrees. I
Well,
mean,
I was just thinking, I'm just thinking of a very specific moment, and I don't think this is a spoiler because
it's
it's the
fine.
it's
It's
the kind
fine.
of movie
Terrifier
where,
2's been out for a few years. I think you're good.
oh yeah, of course, right, yeah, it's only new to me, but yeah, no, there's a character, there's a male. I mean, going with the misogyny thing, I think that's definitely present in the first one. It's toned down in the second one, but it still feels like a weird edge to it. There's a lot of like very, I guess, like traditional, like the 80s kind of conservatism in slasher movies, of like there's always female characters who turn up and they're vain and mean and uh, sort of I don't know, like quote unquote loose women, and then there's an innocent, pure woman who will survive or survive longer than her friend, who will have something horrible happen to her. But also there's a boyfriend character in Terrifier 2 who is like the rational one who's been like, hey, let's treat main character nicer, like let's be rational here, let's not argue. And there's like a scene shift where there's a cut and suddenly he starts doing cocaine, forcing cocaine on his girlfriend, and being like gross and weird suddenly out of nowhere. And it's because he is about to die soon. It's like the characterization comes in of like, okay, now that let's suddenly make this guy the worst so that there's some satisfaction in killing him. And that's the first thing I thought of when you mentioned about that, because it does kind of really it feels like a lot of the movie is like a series of short movies which all have the same sort of structure. Um, and that it does make sense that like he's thinking of it in that way because I just feel like they're trying to establish the characters and the traits about them that you're meant to like or not like before the violence occurs. And that's kind of the pattern of the whole film.
Yeah, and it's not compelling to me. Other people clearly find it compelling. And I think part of what is great and works about these is that like you know exactly what you're gonna get with them. Now for Jack and that's why I think we're done with them. But for other people, it's like I'm gonna go see like this movie and see some fucked up shit. And that's how you
Mm.
get a movie that costs $250,000 that makes $15.7 million with Terrifier 2. And that's how you get Terrifier 3, which cost $2 million, still independently produced, and made so far $55.1 million.
Ooh,
That is fucking
insane.
awesome.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is so great. Um,
And
Having
I mean, it's
conversations with other just industry folk recently, it does seem to be that this is the only way forward for a little bit. Now, I think should every independent movie just be some fucked up shit? No, I
no,
don't.
they're gonna take the wrong lessons from it.
You'll probably take
Mm.
the wrong lessons from it. But again, this one is completely in the hands of at least like the people originating the art, and I
And
think that's
willing to
cool.
grow at the
And
very
willing to grow.
least.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
fact that he created this final girl who's now his protagonist of the franchise in response to the criticisms, like that is an inherently good thing. That is what you want your artist to do, to grow and
Mm.
listen without being reactionary. I would argue his art feels more reactionary, excuse me, than he ever comes across. And by all accounts, like it looks like he's running pretty good sets and people like
Mhm.
him, and that goes a long way. That's why I'm not banging the Todd Phillips alarm here. You know what I mean? Like this is good. This is good. I don't fuck with this movie or
And
these movies.
I mean, if there's one really good change to hope for is that maybe the MPAA can, get fucked.
Yeah, yeah, because Terrifier 3 is not technically rated, so
Yeah.
Mm.
that's awesome. Also, that 55.1 million box office take, Damien Leone's gonna buy a house. He's gonna be able to buy a house in California. Not
Yeah.
everyone can buy a house in California anymore. He can now.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Genuinely. Genuinely. Um, I think that's about it for Terrifier 2, because Max hasn't been
No,
speaking
it's
to me about it. And
fine.
I
I
no,
mean,
I don't want to leave you hanging. I mean, you're already so tired and everything like that. And I know we you have a lot to say about Smile 2, your favorite film of the year. But Jack, do you have anything else in Terrifier 2?
Phew.
Or
No,
Terrifier in general?
yeah, I mean, I guess like it puts me in a weird situation because like you, I mean, it does push me in a direction where I start thinking like I don't want to do the Cisco and Ebert Puritan response thing, but I start feeling like that. I start feeling like like uh this is something for teenagers and I'm an old man and maybe I don't understand what people want anymore. And it puts me in that direction and I'm like, this is not a good place for me to be heading in. And it's not like I think I get very clouded with it because I really just don't get it. I just don't get the effect of it. Because it's not necessarily like gore centric, like shocking horror isn't really where I go for horror necessarily anyway. So, but I think I needed something else. I needed something else going on there, and something about it is not working for me. But I want to hear about Smile too. I have not seen the first one either.
Oh,
well, I
okay.
mean, just to quote
Yeah.
Mike Scott, he said, they, and he says this about these films in particular, but in general, he says, these films are not for me, but I'm happy they exist. And that's also true. They don't,
Mm.
I have not seen the Terrifier films. If anything, my interest has finally crossed threshold where I might actually sit through two. And even more so because Vice has expressed interest in sitting through them. And if Vice, who's notoriously very not into horror at all, is willing to sit through Terrifier 2, well, potentially able to sit through Terrifier 2 because of the lead actress whose name I'm suddenly blanking on. I'm very sorry.
Laura
Uh,
Laverna
Laura Laverne. I was going to say Laverna.
or Lavera,
If he's
Lavera.
willing
Whoops.
to, Lavera, sorry. If he's willing to sit through that for her, then I literally have no choice. Like I have to because Bison's very anti-horror. He ain't about that spooky shit, as he says. Um, but I will probably at least get the two, and we shall see. But that might not be for a bit. But like Mike said, even if I watch two and it's not for me, I'm happy it exists, and I hope this signals a positive shift. even though I know some studios will look at this and definitely say like take all the wrong lessons from it.
The studios definitely will. And I guess just one thing cap off Terrifier stuff for me is that yeah, Lord Lavera is great. Um,
Hmm.
I genuinely think if you're curious about this franchise because of its rise in popularity, I do think you could start with two. I don't
Yeah, I
think there's
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, yeah.
anything in
I'm
one
not
that
gonna do
you
one.
I don't. And I look again, no disrespect to the man making the film, but you're making art and it's it's going to be judged and perceived in certain ways. I don't think the filmmaking is very good, including like Jack was saying, like the way it's lit, it looks very. I love stuff that's a little garish, like I love Michael Bay movies, but those are heavily stylized in a way, and this just looks kind of garish and like cheap. And obviously it is. Obviously it is. I understand that, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre was made for roughly the same amount of money. Now, again,
Mm.
that's without inflation. I understand
The
budgets change
Headhunter
like
was
that.
made for 30K and
Headhunter looks terrific.
looks amazing for a movie that
Everyone
looks
watched
30K.
Headhunter. Max recommended Headhunter, and I'd kind of heard about it before, but I finally watched it on his persistent recommendation. It was the best recommendation I think you've given me thus far in life. At least one
I
of
have to
them.
check this out. I
You
haven't
didn't
seen it.
like it that much though.
No, I didn't, but like it was inspiring. I was like, this is what you can like do. There's no excuse. There's
Yeah,
here's the big takeaway from all fucking movies being made right now. When you're like, this kind of looks like shit. Oh, they shot it during COVID or whatever. It's like fucking Matrix Resurrection was shot in COVID. You could hate that movie. That movie looks terrific.
yeah,
You know,
Mm.
yeah,
there's just no excuse. You either put in the work or you don't.
yeah.
Okay, end of story. Um, but anyways, speaking of great looking movies, and I think significantly better directed than Terrifier are the Smile movies, which Max would agree with because again, like I said, they're his favorite movies of every year they've come out so far. Isn't that right, Max?
Yes, but I want to hear your thoughts on Smile 2 before I go off because this might actually be a prolonged debate if we fall on opposite ends, and it might be very short if we don't fall on opposite ends. So I got to hear yours first. I'm sorry.
I know
I
it's
don't
totally
mind
fine.
not talking.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah. You're regaining your voice from the exhaustion. Totally get it. Um, so I really like Smile One because I'm gonna steal the quote I got from Matt Garingo. I don't remember if we talked about it on an episode or we did it off mic, but we both liked it, and part of the reason I think I liked it so much was that I love stories that they deal with like the metaphor, the themes, and these ideas of like characters overcoming such, right? I'm also I also just do like cheaper horror movies that are like, yeah, some scary shit's happening, and it's like I like that Smile was like, yeah, this is great that the character was going through something, but this is the demon. The demon doesn't really give a shit about that. So here's a really nihilistic ending that's gonna fuck you up, and you're gonna feel a little miserable afterwards. And I was like, okay, I don't know why it worked for me because I usually kind of hate shit like that. And then I saw Smile 2, and I mean the filmmaking in Smile actually was very impressive. I was like, this is pretty well put together for a movie I was kind of like chuckling at when I saw the trailers. And then Smile 2, I thought like was such a step up in direction. Um, it how do I put this? I think the writing is solid. I do think the movies, should they continue, and it looks like they might, um, will have to veer in a different direction. And no spoilers, but it looks like they're
No,
gonna veer in a different
spoilers.
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 Jack, are you cool?
Wait, yeah, go ahead. I feel like
And I'm gonna say we should do spoilers for one reason. If you look at the trailer for Smile 2, there is literally no way you can't call that ending. There's no way.
A lot of people didn't, and I'll say that when I saw, or I hadn't seen Smile 2 at this point when I asked my friend this question, who had seen an early screening of the film for critical reasons, and I thought, hey, when I heard what this movie's about, in my mind, I'm like you, Max. I was like, it has to end that way. They do that, right? And he was like, oh yeah, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. Then I'm gonna watch it. Yeah. If I heard no, I wouldn't have bothered, even though I like Smile,
No.
because I'm like, you
See, here's
cannot
the
fucking
thing. I
waste
would have
that.
been more interested if they did in that way, especially now having seen it, because that was probably the most obvious way to go. So if you did it in that way, especially after having seen it, I feel like we'll get there. But continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, no, it's fine. It's fine. You have a lot of strong feelings about your favorite film of the year. Um, Yeah, I really like this Parker Finn guy. Naomi Scott gives maybe the best performance of the year. That is not a joke. That is
She's
not everything
incredible.
else I'm saying about Max's relationship to this movie is kind of a joke. That is not. Naomi Scott is fucking incredible. There's a reason she was like runner up for Ray in the Star Wars movies. I almost said Ray
She
Skywalker. Holy shit,
was.
they indoctrinated me. Yeah, she was a runner up. She was like in the top five or whatever.
I feel bad for saying this. I love that we have Daisy Ridley. I think Naomi Scott could have fucking killed it.
She could have killed it. She would have totally killed it in her own way. And but I
But
also
I know
really
why she
love.
didn't get it.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah.
We all know why. Yeah. And I do love Daisy Ridley. And Daisy Ridley has now been given the opportunity to kind of use that to leapfrog into other projects and made very interesting choices. Woman in the Sea, I would recommend that if you have Disney Plus, or maybe it's on Hulu in other countries, but like solid biopic. Daisy Ridley is remarkable in it though. And then I hear Sometimes I Think About Dying is also very good. I haven't seen that one yet, but I really, really want to. But yeah, Naomi Scott is fucking unbelievable in this movie. And she must have been exhausted. Because she's pulling heavy duty with the singing, with the choreography, the tense choreography, the horror scenes, um, the fucking crying with the snot and everything. Like, dude, she's like all in.
Yeah.
That was crazy. That was like, if I didn't like the rest of the movie, I would have been championing her. Like in a perfect world, that's best actress nomination, like guaranteed. But it's not because the Academy is still run by cowards. Um, so yeah, I'm a big fan of
Except
this
by
movie.
Chad Stahelski. Shout
Yes.
out to Brandon.
Yes. Oh yeah, that was a great interview. That was a
Hmm.
great interview he got going on. But yeah, so Max, Smile 2. Go
Naomi
crazy.
Scott is putting in a fantastic performance in a movie wholly undeserving of that performance. And before I really go in, I need to ask a very important question. What the fuck was the step up in directing? And I'm being so serious because I didn't like the first film, but I granted it sort of it's your first time, you've got this gimmick, cool. Like not cool, but like I didn't like it. Um, but I felt like to a large extent of it, it's your first time. And again, I do agree it was directed sturdily enough, I suppose. Um, but then I watched the sequel and I'm trying to figure out what is this glow up that everyone's talking about. Well, the directing is so great because I'm sorry, you flip the camera around upside down a couple times in your first time. I'm like, oh, okay, you're a little flourish. You're like, all right, cool. You do that every other fucking scene in this movie, and I'm supposed to like be in awe. When I last year I championed a movie called To Catch a Killer. I really, really liked it. Musa Chandri, if you follow him, he watched it and he said, it felt like David Fincher light, which I think I would agree with to some extent. He does a similar trick where he kind of flips the camera upside down, but these are like flourishes that sort of go with the reality, not the reality, but the sort of psychological view that film has, especially once you get to the guy who is committing these shooting sprees. In Smile 2, he flips the camera upside down because, oh, things aren't what they seem. And I'm like, okay, sure. But like, I don't see it. The dance number is good. I like that. Also, very catchy song. Um, the the stunt dancers, that hallucination sequence is also very good. That quick snippet jump scare with the crowbar, it didn't get me, but like that's good. That was the only scare that I thought was like nice. Every other scare is ripped out of the first film and not even necessarily done as better. It's just the same. She goes to sleep at night. Oh, she's talking to her friend. Her friend is not actually there. It's just the smile demon fucking with her. Oh, she sees somebody creepy smiling at her. Oh, I do not, I genuinely, I have been trying to wrap my brain around what is the jump up in directing because outside of one or two set pieces, it's not necessarily bigger to me. Like they say, the sequel is always bigger and better. It feels bigger in some respects, but he also doesn't feel like he goes all the way in terms of using this premise of a world famous pop star being haunted by this smile demon to its fullest extent. She gets the sequence with the little creepy girl after engaging with the creepy fan, and she gets the hallucination stunt dancers, and then she gets the very end. And I just feel like I watched a totally different movie. So Diego, so you have seen it, so I'm very curious. Where do you think the step in directing is? Because he's I don't see it. I genuinely don't.
Well, I think I should also clarify here. I really like these movies. This isn't still like I wouldn't say like, oh, now I'm excited for his Possession remake. You know what I'm saying? I think these are,
I'm sorry, what?
yeah, yeah, he's remaking Possession.
I mean, I haven't seen Possession. I keep meaning to, but all
You
right,
should.
Wait,
whatever.
It's terrific. It's
I'm
terrific.
which possession?
the
The
one with Sam
Andrzej
Neill.
Zulawski one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one.
Oh,
Yeah. So that might any goodwill I'm trying to give this movie and that director is maybe about to sour because I just brought that up. So
Yeah.
with all due respect to him,
Jesus
because I
Christ.
do like his movies, and I think
You know,
I
it's a
was doing
better Possession remake. The First
First Omen.
Omen, a
No,
movie
First
we
Omen is the
all.
greatest movie ever made. Like, that is so
Sorry.
fucking good.
Continue. Continue. I
I did. Okay,
apologize.
you know what? Here, I can bounce back and forth really quickly because this is important. I saw Longlegs and the First Omen double feature on film at the New Beverly, and I was a little. I don't hate Longlegs. I don't dislike Longlegs. I think it's a well-made film like Smile that I think is a little thin narratively, and I would say I think. Smile is the flashy version of that, where I
Mhm.
enjoy it. And I think part of my resistance with Long Legs initially was that it was kind of like I heard touting of like Silence of the Lambs comparison, that puts a certain image in your brain. And when I didn't
Sure.
get that with that movie, at first I was like, it was good, but I don't, whatever,
Mm.
like effective, but to what end? And I think it was just, oh, I think this is a well-made piece of expression of like artistic expression and like uh atmosphere and ambiance, right? Um and I really admired it rewatching it. I was like, okay, I like it about the same, but I'm less resistant to this now. And then I watched First Omen and people behind me and friend of the show, Joey Kressel. There were people behind us who were like, every time the scare started, because that movie's fucked up, right? But like
Yeah.
in an artistically expressive way for a purpose, not just like look how sick this shit is. Um, there were people behind us going like, no, 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 don't do that. Oh no, oh no, oh no. We thought these people were gonna have a fucking panic attack. I thought this dude was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I thought he was gonna leave. Like, so shout out Arkasha Stevenson. Most anticipated movie of the future is whatever she does next. Um, and I think Long Legs and Smile are like dyads for movies that I think are maybe I kind of I don't want to do this, but like they're maybe overhyped a little bit in the sense that like I think some people are like praising them to the extent of like a second coming almost. I wouldn't say that. I think they're just very entertaining movies. So like to your point, Max, about like the stylistic direction, like or the direction at all that you find lacking, and I think that's fair. I think the conversational pieces in the film, I don't think there's anything necessarily interesting about how they're done. You know what I mean? At most, they
Yeah.
get a little like, okay, that's like a different angle or something like that.
Well,
That's
we should
something.
say I was much higher on Long. So you and I are just opposite ends of these both these two movies. I
Yeah.
really liked Long Legs. It's
Hmm.
definitely within my top seven, I think, of the year.
Hmm.
But I mean, I've cooled on it since rewatch. I still think it is very good, but I understand why people don't like it. But Smile 2 is just one of those ones right now where I'm like, what is it that I am missing here? Like, this is a
Hmm.
bad movie. But please continue. I'm sorry.
No, no, it's totally fine. I mean, we were just having that conversation about Terrifier too. You know what I mean? Like, I think this is appropriate that we ended up having these conversations in different ways, and both my amazing co-hosts have the same reaction to different movies, and now I have different reactions to these different movies. So we're covering all the bases today, basically. Um,
and maybe like Max, I'm slightly curious about Smile too now,
Okay,
even though
so this gets into my bigger critique. I actually don't mind the ending. And spoilers, sorry, if you made it this far, you're fucked. And also, not only are you fucked, but you probably already saw it because you're not, whatever. The ending of the movie is she spreads the smile curse to all her fans. She kills herself live on stage, and everybody, her mother, her handler, everybody fucking sees it. And so the idea is if there will be a Smile 3, it'll be a Smile Apocalypse. You could call that from the trailer, especially if you had seen the first film. I hadn't seen the first film, but I knew what happened. So I'm like, okay, this is the only natural endpoint for this film to end. And that's not a bad idea. The problem is how they get there. And how they get there, it's revealed in the third act. She meets this EMT guy, and he's like, "You got to kill yourself temporarily, and maybe the demon will leave you." And I'm like, I called that shit in the first movie. Like, just fucking kill yourself. Like, you don't want to spread it. You don't want to like but I mean, easier said than done, obviously. But like, hey, at least you fucking win off yourself. And in this, she goes through the motions to have the EMT killer, and he's like, "I'll be right back." Blah blah blah. She confronts the Smile Demon, and then you basically find out that it has made her. It has not transported her, but like it's taken over her to the point where she's suddenly at the concert that was supposed to be like in a day or 2 days. And my problem with that is it's two fake outs. The first fake out is one, it pretty much repeats the ending of the first film, because that also has a similar fake out. The second is her friend that she thought she met in the beginning of the film, who she was trying to reconnect with, apparently never existed. So it's pulling two double fake outs to essentially argue that after her hallucination with the dance stunt people, she gets knocked out. She ends up at a hospital. She watches her mom kill herself, and she thinks she killed her mom. Basically, most of the second act, like half of the second act, and all everything up until those final like 2 minutes on screen was all hallucination. So narratively speaking, it doesn't track for me because it essentially means that she never had a chance. And now there's an argument to be made that well, that's what trauma does. Sometimes you just don't, stand a chance because whatever. I understand that. But when you look at a narrative story of the push and pull, the first film, at least that character at the end, she came to a catharsis. This character in this film, she doesn't, Naomi Scott's character, she doesn't get any sort of catharsis. She doesn't get a moment of, I fucked up, but I'm better now. I've grown beyond this. No, all of that is just basically ripped away from her in service of that ending. And so it makes me actively despise the ending because it feels like that was the idea. The idea was the ending. And so he wrote backwards from that and it doesn't connect. And I fundamentally like brush up against it, not because it's negative, not because it ends the way it does, but because it means that she never had a chance. And if you establish that rule set that this monster can just suddenly take days away from you without you knowing or anything like that, then what is the narrative stake if it can just do that? There's never a moment where this thing actually feels threatened because it's always in control. Freddy Krueger, he is powerful because he's a dream demon. But then the dream wars are like, hey, we can fuck with you in the dream world. We can imagine just as much as you can imagine and still defeat you. There is not that here. And I don't necessarily need that, but and nor do I need a happy ending for these films. But there's no real drama to the conflict of the person being affected by the smile demon. Do you see what I'm saying, Diego? I'm
I
sorry.
no no I do see what you're saying. If they just do that again for the third one, I think there has to be new waves to this conflict or whatever, right? But let's look back at the first one. The first one, much better person, arguably, than the character Naomi Scott plays in
I
Smile 2.
disagree, but it's fair.
Or
I,
at
I actually
least
think Madame
more
Scott is
more
better.
accessible, I should say.
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
Also, I don't mind that these characters are all surrounded by absolutely shitty people. Like that,
Mhm.
that's also fine. Makes sense for a pop star.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry.
And I think I don't think it's a mistake that Naomi Scott's character doesn't achieve any sense of catharsis. I think it's important that the first character does, but
Mhm.
for this sequel, I think you're saying like it's predetermined that she's gonna lose, and that the demon has like such control over her, right? That it's harder for a character of her stature in that world, in that environment, to even navigate that stuff, right? I mean, because if we are going to approach this from like a lens of like even metaphor for just a second, right? Overcoming trauma or the failure to, right? Because like I think that's what I'm realizing. Like I'm okay with a movie being more cynical and nihilistic, even if it's like this character will not be able to achieve like any sense of like enlightenment or a positive ending, right? I think I'm okay with that if I like the way it's done, right? Um,
Mhm.
and I think like the fake she literally has a fake friend in the movie, right? So I
Yeah.
don't think that's like that's necessarily it might be a cop out more in a plot sense, but I think for the purposes of the story, I think that's pretty effective for like a pop star. She literally has a fake friend in the movie, you know? And
No, and
I just found that very effective. I find stuff like that effective in the movie.
yeah, and I see that, I guess, but I understand not giving her catharsis, but there is no possibility of her there is no possibility of her actually fighting back in any real sense. Like, and obviously, she only decides to go through with her plan at the very last second. But you know, the people around her are so vile. Her own mother is her own manager. You know, she has a moment where she reveals like, "Oh, how much I've sacrificed for you, and you're ungrateful and this and that." But then by the spawn monster revealing that like probably that hospital, her even being in the hospital was, fake, then why should I feel invested in this world and even in the shitty lead character if like there's no there's no possibility, however slim, of overcoming it. At least for again, I think in the first film, there is a possibility of defeating it because that character, like, she recognized that she is not responsible for the death of her mother, the suicide of her mother. Um, and again, different levels of relatability, obviously. But here, I think the film works better if she's ultimately extremely shitty, but everyone else around her is like a decent human being. And so instead, the monster is like infecting and killing them as sort of like punishment. Obviously, at this point, I'm just rewriting the film. That's not exactly fair. But the mom, so that reveal with the mom where she's like, oh, you are this blight and I give up my whole life for you. Like it's revealed as fake. So I just, without any, with the idea that none of these characters within this pop star's life are real, or at least her interactions as such, I don't feel an investment in any of it because it just feels like there was never a shot. Like I'm watching this movie precisely for an ending that I predicted. I hope I'm making sense.
No, no, I think you are, but I think what you don't like about it is what I liked about the movie. Now, if here's the thing, because this is clearly built to be a franchise at this point, right? If this is all the movies are, I think I'll run into some problems. I think for this movie, I think it is perfectly acceptable for me for this movie to be like, you had no fucking chance. There was no escape from this. You're predestined to just suffer and die. And if horror movies, the better ones, I would argue, tend to speak to the times, right? I think that is a very understandable feeling nowadays versus something like Terrifier 2, which I'm like, okay, you're speaking to stuff you just liked back in the day, and I don't really get anything from this. But again, like I think that's what I liked about Smile 2, and I think you just didn't think it worked in that sense, I guess. You think it failed to accomplish that, right? Even
I
though
think
that's what it
it,
set out to do.
yeah, I think he had a great ending, and I think it was all in service of just getting there. And the ending is nice in a vacuum, but with the way this plotted out, I don't think it's. I think it's literally the first film, but bigger. But but I don't even feel like it actually goes as big as it should be, or I don't think it's executed in that bigness because I just like I'm sitting in the theater and Seuss is with me, and I'm timing these jump scares. Like I could put a stopwatch to just like, oh, she turns her head, smile in front of like it is well directed, but it is poorly. Uh, I don't see, I guess, an artistic vision, if that makes any sense.
I no, I think that totally does. Again, I think this is just a really well-made standard crowd-pleasing horror movie, except for the crowd-pleasing is like fucked up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's not it's Halloween Kills, not 2018, except I like this one more than Halloween
Mm.
Kills. If that makes sense to someone out there, thank you. If not, I'm sorry. But in my mind, that made sense. My point is Halloween 2018 is like the fucking cheering for Judy Greer with the rifle, shooting Michael Myers in the face. Everyone escapes. Halloween Kills, the people that like that one, they're like, oh, it's like every slasher Halloween sequel combined into one because Michael killed the whole town.
I
And
like that film, but that's not the reason I like it. But
oh, okay. Well, I mean, if I could just make that comparison,
sure,
broadly,
sure.
other people like Halloween Kills more than me. They can explain it better. But
Yeah.
in my mind, that's how that works here.
I think if they had opened with that, and I talked to someone about this, and they kind of disagree, but I feel like if it opened with that ending to some extent, then you have a like, oh, we're going like fucking wild, and I don't foresee that if there's a next entry and it follows this ending, I don't foresee them being able to prove they can go that big outside of the fact that there'll just probably be a lot more deaths. Um, but yeah, I'm sorry. I really try not to rag, but like I just feel like I missed something here.
mhm.
Um, because like I said, I wasn't a big fan of the first one, but I try to go in everything in the open mind. And at the very least, hey, it's still better than Deadpool and Wolverine.
There you go.
um, but I think I just really brushed up against its narrative choices, not in the sense that they were bad, just in the sense that they just didn't connect fully with what it was trying to say with its characters and its overall premise of, a pop star. Um, and I got to be honest, I really didn't feel like Naomi Scott, as good as she is, I didn't feel like she was as reprehensible as the character from the first film. At least the way she portrays her, she wasn't she felt like she was genuinely trying to get better.
Oh yeah, that
But
is the thing. So she's made mistakes, and I
yeah,
do like that. This is not a criticism for me. It's like she she's complicated. She's a very complicated character. So I guess even though I think the narrative is mostly an excuse for like the nihilism of this all, which again I'm really responding to for some reason. I usually don't respond to this. Like I need to work out why I'm responding to it with these movies and not other stuff. Maybe it's because it's basically The Ring. You know what I mean? Like which is a masterpiece. The Gore
yeah.
Verbinski's The Ring. I like the first original version as well, but
I'll tell
just
you what, a better movie of this that I just recently watched was Pulse, the original by
oh
Kiyoshi
fuck yeah,
Kurosawa.
Pulse is sick.
I've been going on a bit of his binge. I did Cure. I've watched Pulse, and I've watched his latest. I don't know if it's a short. I don't know. You classify it as short or a feature, but I watched Chime, which is like 45 minutes. And Pulse like genuinely like freaked me the fuck out. And for my money, I feel like if you're gonna watch a film about, depressed people dying, maybe watch the one by fucking Kurosawa. Like, sorry, like there's more vision and thematic depth in that in his fucking peak than in Parker Finn's fucking 40 whatever fucking. I'm sorry, I did not like this movie. And I disliked it so much that I think I actually have to at some point revisit it because I've clearly missed something here. And I definitely want to see what I missed because I don't know. I feel like I feel like I bumped my head.
So what has the general response been to Smile 2?
Everybody likes it,
Yeah.
which is yeah. And like I know I've seen some people say like, oh well, I did like Halloween Ends, and I'm like, yeah, but I get why not you don't like Halloween Ends. Like
Hmm.
that makes sense to that makes sense to me. Like I think the thing is, I'm not gonna say I'm with most people on every film, but like I guess I like the substance. It's not gonna make my top of the year, but I like the substance. I'm genuinely, I think, is the word affable. Uh,
Affable. Yeah, that's a word.
I'm affable to most movies, like outside of some. Yeah, I'm genuinely affable. So I think with this is just one of the really rare few times I'm just like I did we watch different movies like did what did I miss? Because as far as I know, everyone I know liked it. I mean, I think it is the rare times, Seuss and I, we walked out the movie, we are just like, this was bad. Like we had a bad time. um and again, nothing actually wrong with the ideas at play, but the execution I just thought was I didn't see it. So I'm sorry for like fucking
No,
taking
no, it's fine. That's what
sledgehammer.
these conversations are for. I mean, that's why you and I are friends. You just talk this shit out, and it's interesting. And that's what art's for, to discuss and have hearty conversations about like why, people are wrong for not liking Halloween Ends, by the way. Like they are. You are incorrect out there. No, because I get very defensive because I've seen the shit you pig shovel to yourselves. I've seen your takes.
We've
So
seen what makes you applaud.
yeah, I've seen what makes you like cheer, your boos mean nothing. But like, yeah, I mean, we could just jump into horror sequels from there, like the best ones. I mean, we're all Halloween three heads here,
Yeah,
clearly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
like, that's a pretty big one. Shout out to Red Letter Media for their incredible Halloween Ends video. Like, frankly, I think it's one of the best things I've ever done. Not just because I like the movie,
Yeah,
but the
okay.
opening, that I'll have to share with the episode or something like that. But
Mm.
this is the
Yeah.
worst thing ever since the last Halloween movie, and they just keep doing that for everyone.
Yeah, I haven't caught up in the Red Letter Media in a while, so maybe I should check that one out.
You
I pretty much
should.
never watched them.
Okay, okay. I think different eras of the internet, perhaps. But
No, no, I knew about them, but I guess I always, for whatever reason, I lumped them in with like, I know they are not this. I lumped them in with that sort of burgeoning, like angry Joe. Not that they're angry, but
mhm.
like that sort of scrappiness that I liked when I was 13, and now I'm kind of beyond that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
no. And hey, I'll just say, like, I think sometimes they're like, maybe you should change targets a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I think
Yeah.
sometimes they could readjust a little bit, but other times they're like,
Mm.
yeah, I don't get why people didn't like Halloween Ends. This was great. Like,
Mhm.
until they don't like the ending where it's Michael and Laurie showdown, but I think it works within the movie, even though I don't know all the behind the scenes stuff in there, but that movie got reworked a little bit. But I
yeah,
think it's the best new Halloween movie. But I realized recently it's my favorite direct Halloween sequel, like by a
yeah,
significant margin, and I like some of the other ones,
yeah.
including 2018. So, but yeah, great horror sequels. I've pulled up a list of Twitter recommendations from the lovely folks that
Mm.
responded to my tweet. But you guys, my friends, what makes a great horror sequel, in your opinion? I mean, Smile 2 clearly wasn't it for Max. Terrifier 2 wasn't it for me and Jack. So, like,
Jack, you haven't talked it a bit, so I'm gonna let you go nuts here.
Oof. Well, I think like, well, my main answer to that question is I don't know.
that's fine.
because because there's a lot that just iterate on the original premise from the first film that work really well for me, and then other times they don't, and it's easy to attribute that to, well, you're just doing the same thing again. There's also horror sequels which are kind of like I would never go to bat for, but I get a lot out of. Like I've enjoyed watching them. I enjoyed watching all the sequels to The Omen, you know. But like I don't really remember anything that happened in them, and I would not go to bat. Um, there's also like you can just like completely pivot in tone, and I think that actually really works a lot of the time. For instance, like you think of something like Gremlins 2, which just goes just bigger in every single way, um, or Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. A lot of ones that they just like kind of pivot into like being a bit broader, a bit more heavy on the comedy. Um, and I think that will kind of lead into a sort of sequel that is maybe my favorite horror sequel, which is Return of the Living Dead, which technically a sequel, but also legally not a sequel. I think question mark.
I Yeah, that's a weird one. Because that stems obviously from Night of Living Dead, but it's of the Dead is the Romero one that
Mhm.
after they split off he gets to use, and then Living Dead is the other guy, what he gets to use.
Mhm.
Um, Return of the Living Dead's a fucking banger, by the way.
Yeah, and it's a they there's tribute paid to an incident that has happened before that has now led to this. It doesn't like work really like lore wise if you're thinking about like what happened before. It doesn't really matter either. And it adds like a lot more like a lot of like personality. So punk rock like apocalypse. It's got a lot, it's just got great energy to it. And
The great Dan O'Bannon writing and directing that one.
oh yeah.
I heard he was a little bit of a tough cookie on set, but he
Mhm.
before he was passing, he did come out and apologize like in an interview, like I was wrong, like I was a hothead, like I made it difficult for everyone. So respect to him. R.I.P. King. It's very funny that you bring that up. Um, it is not the surprise Halloween retrospective, but it does come up in conversation because
Mhm.
it's another semi-related to another Toby Hooper movie that is our Halloween special for the
Oh, I
retrospective.
thought you guys were doing the keep.
We're doing the Keep too. The Keep is part of the failed fantasy
Mhm.
blockbuster, so that'll
Okay,
come out
okay,
the day before or after this one,
okay.
um, or before or after this podcast
Then
hangout.
I know what the other film is. I mean, I knew when you said Toby Hooper, but yeah.
Okay. Do you? Do you?
Me,
Do
yes, yes. You brought it up multiple times. In fact, you brought it up, if not during your last Witch Hunter episode, then the Barry Munchausen. But yeah, I know what it is.
all right. Yeah, you probably do. But yeah, I'm sorry, Jack. I just wanted to shout out Dan O'Bannon.
No, I'm yeah, no, I mean kind of done. I just wanted to ask, am I right in thinking that Return of the Living Dead is the first zombie movie with zombies talking and saying brains?
I
And
think that is the Brands
yeah.
one. Yeah,
I
with
Yeah.
mean,
yeah.
technically Frankenstein.
mm mm
I
Does he
mean,
say
I've
Yeah.
brains?
no. Oh, are you saying the word brains or just talking?
No, no, saying the words like wanting the brains.
Oh, then I have no idea. Then no, okay, sorry. I thought
Yeah.
you meant just talking.
Yeah, I mean, technically Frankenstein speaking. I mean, I think that carries over because they have to say
Mhm.
brains and have to speak to say brains. So yeah, Frankenstein might undercut it all. Everything goes back to fucking Frankenstein. That's crazy. Oh,
Dr. Frankenstein.
yeah, yeah,
Van Helsing.
yeah, yeah.
That
No,
is
yeah,
one
Van.
I haven't seen any of the Frankenstein sequels.
Not
And
even Bride?
no, actually I was gonna
You
watch
need to get off this podcast and go watch Bride. What the fuck?
do you know what I was actually gonna watch Bride of Frankenstein yesterday. Um and the app I was watching it on was going wrong and it was irritating me too much, so I ended up watching Piranha 2 instead.
Oh shit.
Fair.
Which actually I loved. I loved Piranha 2.
Oh, okay, okay.
That's
Shout out.
that's what I actually want to highlight. And I think that there's a lot of people who maybe love the Terrifier movies and are like, this guy is nuts if he loves Piranha 2 because it is a crazy, silly at times movie. But yeah, I love it.
Shout out to James Cameron who got kicked off that movie after like a couple days. So he's credited as director, but he's like, I
Right.
mean, he did obviously pre-production and stuff, and Corman guiding him through that was a big deal.
Well,
But yeah,
he must have directed the opening scene
I think
with
he did the underwater stuff.
right,
Yeah.
including like like an underwater love scene with two scuba divers in a
Oh my
wreckage of a
God.
ship, and I just the movie starting that and then just seeing directed by James Cameron. I'm like, yeah, this guy was always interested in this.
Yeah. No, that I mean that's like his weird horny era. So that makes
Mhm.
sense. Like they're like a good, I would say a good 15 to 20-year run where there's some shit in James Cameron movies where I'm like,
Yeah. Also, I mean, you're
interesting
working under
fellow.
Corman, so that makes a ton of sense
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
Piranha 2 is like uh it's incredibly horny. It's not just in a way that a lot of horror movies are with just like, uh nudity and like people who are gonna like have a love scene and then get killed during it. But also like the premise of the movie is there's like there's a it's mating season for fish, which is disrupted by humans coming in when they're mating on the beach to come kill them. So it almost becomes like a revenge thing of like the mating season is interrupted, and then the humans are punished for this by being killed, and everyone is having sex and everyone is having relationships. It's a very strange movie.
So the fish kill because they get cock blocked. Fair.
Yes, I feel like that's the underlying message.
Yeah,
Even though
fair.
there are other there are other
A little bit, yeah.
other like actual reasons in the law and everything, but no,
I,
that's a
I,
lot of
I
fun, man.
actually, I actually want to ask you, Jack. So you brought up Return of the Living Dead. Have you seen Return of the Living Dead sequels? Like any of them?
I tell you what, I watched Return of the Living Dead 3 because I heard that was a great one. And I also heard that the second one was I doesn't have as many fans. So I skipped that one. I haven't seen number two, but I saw number three with I've forgotten her name, but I always think of her as Julie Cooper from the OC. But no, that movie is crazy too. I mean, I still prefer Return of the Living Dead, but
Oh yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
third one has a lot going on.
That there is so much in that fucking movie about like the military industrial complex, working poor. Um, it's fucking that's a crazy that's an actual crazy movie, and I do think it's great. Like I love
Okay.
that movie.
I
Everyone should
kept meaning
watch
to get
Return of
that.
the Living Dead 3.
Okay. Okay.
That yeah,
Yeah,
fucking crazy
Brian
movie.
Brian Yuzna,
Brian
right?
Yuzna, yeah. I
Yeah,
think it does that like right after Society.
right.
Which fun fact was the first movie I watched after the 2020 election. So I was in a very weird headspace. Yeah, that was maybe the craziest
Uh,
decision I've ever
I
made in my life.
I tell you what, I think it was last Halloween. I made my co-host on my podcast, Henry, who's been on Waffle Press as well, made him watch Society, and he doesn't have much of a stomach for
Oh
things,
God.
so he was very upset with me afterwards.
I could understand that. I'll pull up some tweets and I want to go to Max for some great horror sequel suggestions. But again, I brought up Jordan Cruciola, so I'll just jump to her first. She said, okay, Psycho 4 has a lot of good going on. I would agree. Scream 3 is a slasher about Harvey Weinstein, produced by Harvey Weinstein. Absolutely true. I think the most underrated Scream sequel.
I
Uh,
hard agree on that one.
I
Yeah.
would
uh,
agree. I would
uh,
agree.
Not the best one, but the most underrated. Jason X
I
knows exactly what it's doing.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. The Sistine Chapel of dog shit. I love Jason X. Seed of Chucky. I didn't understand for years, but I love that movie now.
The Chucky sequels are there's some surprisingly good things in there. Like even when it's bad, it's interesting, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single bad Chucky movie. I've come to terms with that. I think
Okay.
Child's Play 3 has the most fun last 20 minutes of a lot of the movies.
Mm.
It's like one of the better like nonstop set pieces. But the first like two acts are a little slow.
Mm.
Twitter fave Mr. Chow was going through them for the first time, and he was like, "I don't know about this," and I was like, "No, you got to get to the end. The end's the best part," and it is. The end is absolutely the best part of that movie.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to say like Don Mancini, he's on record for saying that's the one he's not really a fan of because they came up with the concept Chucky in a military academy, and then they like kind of like, oh shit, we don't know what else to do with that, and the movie kind of recognized that too because then it ends at a carnival. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you didn't fucking know, it's fine, They rushed it out in like 9 months after the last one, so whatever. But Jordan's rest of them, Ginger Snaps 2, which I haven't seen, Halloween Resurrection, which I asked an explanation for just because I always struggle with that. I've heard that before from people, and I just don't understand. So, uh, Jordan, if you have a
What?
take on that, I would love to hear it genuinely because I don't know with that one.
That Busta Rhymes, yeah.
Yeah, trick or treat, motherfucker.
That's what I was gonna ask. I was just gonna Google it because I was like, if I'm wrong about that, that'll be a very weird question. But I've
I
not got
am
that
a
far in
I am
the
a
Halloween
big
series.
hater of I like chunks of I'm a big hater from everything basically from five to Rob Zombie's Halloween remake. I do not subscribe that H2O is a good movie. I simply I cannot follow anybody there. It is boring as shit. Um
Whatever. Yeah.
Resurrection, I will I will beat a child. to destroy that. I don't know. That sounds terrible. I hate that fucking movie.
Okay, well, don't fight Jordan. Jordan's great. I got to meet her in
Yeah.
person at Big Bad, and she was the coolest person on planet Earth. So, I'll just run through the rest, and then I'll read out some more, and then we'll go to Max. But she also said Saw X. Yes, a banger. Urban Legend Final Cut not seen. My Super Psycho Sweet 16 2. I've never heard of that movie, so Jordan,
Me
I will be
neither.
watching that this week.
Yeah.
I've never heard of My Super Psycho Sweet 16 1, so I got some watching to do this week. But Max, great horror sequels.
I'm actually gonna throw this back at you because you're the reason why I watched it last year. Well, you were one of many voices who got me to finally watch it. Um, but I have to ask because I don't know if you have or if you ever will cover it on the retrospective. How much do you love The Exorcist 3?
I worshipped The Exorcist 3. We've not done a retrospective on it. I don't really even think we talked about doing an Exorcist retrospective. We might have to for Flanagan's because that's kind of a big deal.
Mm.
And as much as I've clearly gone to bat for DGG, I heard his Exorcist didn't really work out, and that is very clearly not entirely his fault. So that's what I'll say about that. But
I
yeah,
like that
that's
one, but yeah.
okay. I mean,
I
I'll
won't go
give
bat
it a
for it, but
shot.
I liked it. Like, I mean, it's not exactly fighting an uphill battle now.
Yeah. Um, Allegedly, the studio got a little cold feet when Kills and Ends were not as well received as 2018, and it looks like he had some shackles thrown on him
Mm,
with that
okay.
one. But who knows? Well, they do. They know out there. But but
The shadow
yeah,
narrows.
I Exorcist 3, I would like to do that. We talked about it on the main podcast with Gene and Marcelo Pigo from Talk Film Society came on.
Okay. All right. I
We
need to
we
find
talked
that
about
episode
that
then.
too, the Exorcist movies. And yeah, that was that's a great movie. That is
Okay.
Exorcist 3 is one of the top of my I made like a little list of like my priority of like horror sequels I didn't get around to.
mhm.
And that yeah, that's on it because I've only seen the first two.
Okay.
I'll plug them at the end, but I've done a series of podcasts on The Exorcist 3 and I watched it last year and I think I've watched it like 5 times since. It is
Wow.
firmly like up in my I think it is one of the best horror movies of all time. Like it is
Ooh.
fantastic
It is. It
despite its
absolutely is.
problems.
You
Um
know what? I they wash over me.
I
I don't
agree.
really yeah, I don't really they do not hamper anything for me.
I
Um
100% agree.
Jack, you've seen Manhunter, right? You know the greatest
Yes.
movie ever made? Yeah. Well,
Uh-huh.
Exorcist 3 is kind of like okay, an Exorcist movie but that
Yeah.
basically. Like it's
Yeah.
tonally very similar.
Yeah.
Um
So I'm watching that as soon as we stop
yeah.
recording.
Okay. All
If
right.
that's the description I'm getting.
Yeah. But
But to
this
answer your
just
question, oh, go
yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
Well,
Go
just like
ahead.
Will Graham is like sadder, I think, than the mayor guy.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
It's
Um,
less cool, more it keeps the coldness of that investigation.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
I
Okay.
agree.
Mhm.
It's a much more evil atmosphere, which would make sense given we're talking about The Exorcist.
Yeah.
But yeah. But to answer your question, I will give you the response I gave you when I tweeted out as A4E, Universal Soldier, The Day of Reckoning. Um, I watched that for the first time last year, and what a movie. I know Diego, you're a big champion of it. Obviously, Mike is, Vice is, Liam is. Everybody we know who've seen it, they fucking love it. Universal Day of Reckoning is I, I don't know if I have the words, like just a fantastic action horror film um, with a like revolutionary Jean-Claude Van Damme performance, some like brutal bone crunching action by Larnell Stovall. A fantastic looking movie for, if you know anything about DTV sequels, they don't have a whole lot of money. Um, yeah, I don't really have. There's nothing I can say about this film that has been said by people who got on their knees and worship at the altar of this. It is fan fucking tastic. I cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah. It is the fourth in the official Universal Soldier franchise, but technically like the sixth because there's like two other movies that they don't count or whatever the
Yeah,
fuck. I don't know. It's a mess. I've only seen the original Universal Soldier. Regeneration, which is the previous movie to Day of Reckoning, and then Day of Reckoning. Um, yeah, that is a movie that I cannot believe exists either. It is unlike any other action horror movie I think you'll ever see. It's much more droning than like thrilling. It's not Aliens. It's much more actually it's much more Alien 3, frankly.
Yeah.
Um, so go with that mindset in there. And there's a lot of like director John Hyams mentioned like it's very inspired by like Body Snatchers and like those old like um paranoid thrillers, and it's like that's exactly the vibe of that, but it's a sequel to Universal Soldier. So it's like yeah, that's a great movie. That is an absolutely great movie. That's a great choice, and I was very excited when you mentioned that in the comments. Manish at Vertigay314, friend of the show, mentioned Paranormal Activity 3. Uh, I think that one's super underrated. I'm really glad he brought that up. Another friend of the show, Ethan at Lanky Frampard, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Day of the Dead, Sleepaway Camp 2, Evil Dead 2, Scream 4, Unfriended Dark Web. Banger, 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 banger. Actually, I've not seen Sleepaway Camp 2, so.
It's fun. I
Yeah,
like
that
it.
I mean that was several of my choices too on that. Yeah,
Sleepaway
some
Camp
great
2
great
is
ones.
it's a good time. It's very different from the first film. Obviously after that ending, but like it's a lot of fun.
Um, yeah, Joey, who I saw First Omen with as well, said Exorcist 3. There's a lot of like recurring like Aliens, Evil
Mm.
Dead 2. Only Dahlia comes in with Alien 3. So thank you, Dahlia. The correct answer. Obviously, Aliens is fantastic. I'm not shitting on Aliens. It's fucking the
Sure.
best, but like look who you're talking to, guys. Come on. No, audience, know your host. Um, Dan Doherty said, "Does Candyman 2021 count?" And I would argue yes, because that is technically a legacy sequel,
Sure.
right? That's so that counts. At Dan Greenman 92, repping the most underrated horror franchise by saying Final Destination 5. Final Destination 5 is so fun. If you don't know the ending, don't ever have it spoiled for you. If you know the ending, keep it to yourself because
Well, you
it's
should if even if you shouldn't watch it for the first time, you should watch some of the other films because
it'll
that
elevate it.
you
Yeah,
won't get it. Yeah.
it'll elevate it. Yeah.
I was thinking of going through those movies again because I only ever watched the first two, and it was a long time ago. So
Okay.
I might
I
just
think
truck through.
yeah, you should. The only one I don't like is 4, and even that has like some fun stuff in it. It's just you're with the characters who aren't dying a lot.
Mm,
Um,
Mm.
and so like sometimes it can get a little boring in 4, or a lot of
yeah.
boring in 4. Um, but Erasus dies horribly in a really great way. So even that movie has like stuff going for it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a lot of text. I'm not going to read all these again because we were already going super long in this episode, but maybe I'll do the thing where like I just share a bunch of the tweets over the images, um, over the recording. But yeah, like okay, at Quebec Films, Henry J. Fridays, shout out Quebec, I guess. Gremlins 2, Amityville 2, any given Saw sequel that isn't 4, wrong. Saw 4 is cool. Saw 5 is the one that's kind of boring, and Saw 7 sucks. And then Jigsaw is one of the worst things ever. Do people like Spiral? I don't know if people like
I've
Spiral.
never seen a single defender for it.
Okay, I have. That's why I'm asking. I didn't like Spiral. But Saw X is sick. I love Saw X. Um, House 2, Henry also said. Have you guys seen the House movies?
No, no.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, okay. I should love them more than I do, but I do admire them. They're funky little horror
Mm.
comedies that
Sure.
they don't all
Psycho
work.
2, I don't think has been brought up, but that's I like it more than the first one.
Which one?
Psycho 2.
Psycho 2. Wow, okay. Well,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not even no, I'm not saying no.
that's
This
on my
caught me off
watch
guard.
list. Yeah.
Yeah, Psycho 2 is sick. Psycho 2 is a great movie. Shot by the great Dean Cundy.
Yep.
So,
I need to add really quick. I should have mentioned this up top. Exorcist 3. Phil Tippett asked the other night at when we were all together. He asked, "What's a sequel that's better than the first film?" I think specifically he meant the third sequel. I said I like the Exorcist 3 more than the first film. I had to clarify. I like it. I said I don't know if it's better. He looked at me like I was crazy. No, he said that's crazy. I also brought up people said that they love Last Crusade more than Raiders, and he said also crazy. The only film because he was really trying. I was gonna say Undisputed 3, but like kind of assumed he hadn't seen it. The only film that he brought up himself that he thought was better was Prisoner of Azkaban, which I'm like, that's kind of fair.
Whoa. I just didn't
Yeah,
expect to hear that from him.
yeah, that was one of the, I was like, okay, all right,
I
so
mean, he's
fair
right.
game.
That is better than
Yeah,
the first movie.
yeah.
It is
So
arguably the best Harry Potter movie. This is
there's my Phil Tippett side tangent. Go ahead.
Hey, no, no, I mean it's Phil Tippett. He deserves all the side tangents. Um at Schlocketeer said, I'm sure everyone is listing all the usual suspects, plus you probably had them on your list anyway, so I'll simply chime in with Scanner Cop and Scanners Cop 2, aka
Ooh,
Scanners the Showdown, and Walpurgis Night, aka Werewolf versus Vampire Woman, and Night of the Howling Beast.
yeah, I'll go to bat for Scanner Cop 2. Yeah, Scanner Cop 2 is a lot of fun.
Max, are you familiar with Scanner Cop?
Nope.
Okay. It's okay. Um, let's see. Oh, Trevor Dillon, who is off shooting a movie in Arizona right now. Good luck, Trevor. I still know what you did last summer. I like that
Uh,
movie. I don't know if it's one of my favorite horror sequels, but I like that movie.
yeah, I haven't seen that yet. I've been meaning to. I really enjoyed the first one.
Yeah, yeah. It was like it's sort of like the standard like Scream riff. I mean, obviously it's also
Mm,
Kevin Williamson, but it's also like, okay, this is what horror movies are going to be for a bit, but it's the
yeah.
best version of that, I think. One of the better ones, anyways.
I do not
Uh,
care for many post-screen slashers.
they it's a fine line. Again, it's like Kevin Williamson having a part in this is a big
Sure.
deal. That's why I also love The Faculty, you know.
Haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
do
not a
like the
sequel,
first
but you
Urban
guys,
Legend.
I
I
gotta
like the
watch
first
Urban
Urban Legend.
Legend.
Yeah.
I gotta watch Urban Legend. Um, all right, I'm not gonna go through all these, but I guess everyone kind of knows my favorite horror sequels like Alien 3, Evil Dead
Mm,
2.
yeah.
Silence of the
I think
Lambs technically a sequel. If we're doing Return of the Living Dead, I mean, you could technically
yeah,
say
yeah.
that,
Sure. Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, no, I mean Evil Dead 2 is like one of those ones where I almost feel like I don't need to mention it because it's so excellent and it's
Hmm.
like, it's a real
You
standout horror
you
movie in
asked a
general.
question of best horror sequels, and you're gonna get like repeats. That's why I was like,
Yeah.
I'll say Universal. I was about to say Alan Wake 2. Actually, I hope it, and I'm like, no, no, no. I'll just sit here until someone wants to talk to me about it.
Well,
Um,
okay, I gotta
is
play it
anyone
still.
does anyone has anyone mentioned any of the Friday the 13th other than Jason X?
I probably saw. Oh yeah, yeah. There was like let me pull them up right now. There was Friday 2, 4, and
Hmm.
6. Those get the most play.
Okay, well, that's what I was going to say. Those are the best ones.
Yeah,
For some reason, that series for me is like really the even numbers are just the best ones, and a lot of the odd numbers are not worth watching.
yeah.
Yeah, that might actually track.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I agree with that. Like, it's not fair, maybe, but I mean, I
I
did a
do like
retrospective on
3.
that series, so
Yeah.
you do.
I look like you guys. I watched them in a short time span. The difference was I watched all of them in the span of 2 days with a friend, and I felt my brain go to mush. So I remember liking them, and I'll probably visit them if we ever get a new one coming out. But like, I subscribe to they are not my favorite slasher series, and Friday the 13th and Halloween are vastly more interesting, even in the bad films.
I would agree with that. That was Brendan Agnew, BLC Agnew on Twitter that recommended Friday 13th 2, 4, and 6, and then Dream Warriors, obviously. Scream 6, they put Scream 6 up there. But I also believe Brendan, who is
Hmm.
great, cool guy on Twitter, is also unfortunately a Scream 5 defender, and everyone's still wrong about that movie. Sorry, justice for Melissa and all that. I agree. And Scream 6 rips. Don't know what happened with Scream 5. Everyone's fucking wrong. It's a terrible movie. That's
You know
the way.
what? Like No Way Home, that was another movie I think I watched. I'm like, I liked it, but like I have no need to revisit it, and I will never revisit it. And Scream
Man,
6, I did like.
Yeah,
It
I
might have
love
been a
I
bit
love
boring,
Scream
but yeah,
6.
I
yeah.
think you're gonna hate me for this one. I think Scream 6 is my least favorite Scream.
Wow. Oh, he turned.
No, I
Uh,
look, I got I get a little foggy now on my camera. I think the Cravens entries are obviously head and shoulders above all of it. Like those are their own category. But I thought Scream 6 was so much fucking fun. It's kind of become like a happy place slasher movie for me. Like it's just so breezy.
Hmm.
The stakes aren't super high, but like I have so much fun. The characters are so fun to be around, and that's what I really liked that time. Like, but again, because I hated Scream 5. Like I skipped that in theaters too, and then I was watching it at home and I was texting a group chat of guys that were like, "Oh, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it." And I was like, "This is awful. Like I cannot finish this in one sitting." And because I love everyone who worked on that movie too. So I was like, what the fuck happened here? And I think part of it was the COVID restrictions, them being too reverent to the Scream movies, to the fact they're shooting anamorphic, but they can't frame for anamorphic, and it looks like shit because everything's shot wide open because you want the anamorphic bokeh. I get it, but like it doesn't need to be in every scene. And these super talented actors are given like really crummy dialogue, but written by the fucking guy who wrote Zodiac. So what the fuck is happening here? I was pissed. And then Scream 6, I was like, that was so much fucking fun. I want to watch it again and again and again, and I have. And it's a hoot. But I'm sorry. I don't understand why
Uh,
people don't like that
well,
one, but
see,
like Scream 5.
I tell what I think the thing to note though is that like I I'd still rank it at the bottom end, but I like it, you know? Like I think
Okay.
it's a fun
Okay.
movie. I
Mm,
actually think like I didn't think there was any one Scream sequel that was worth highlighting as like a favorite
mm,
compared to, I've always, if I'm putting it like this list can be very long.
Mhm.
Um, but Scream sequels in general, there's something I like in all of them, and the ones I like less or more, it's always like they're they're all worth watching and rewatching to me. So I think they're like it's probably the most consistent uh like horror series for me.
Mhm. I respect that. I love them all except 5. So like I really do respect and
Hmm.
understand that. I think Child's Play is probably my favorite, most consistent one
Hmm.
because
Yeah,
it's
I see
still
that.
ongoing and I love the show and they should renew that show and not fucking cancel
I
it.
I haven't seen the show yet,
Oh, it's
but
so awesome.
isn't John Waters in it at some point?
Yeah, well, he's in Seed of Chucky also. He plays a different character, but yes, he
Oh,
is.
is he in Seed?
He's
Oh
in Seed
man,
of Chucky. Yeah, I think he's a
man.
coroner in that one. He's like,
Oh, okay, right.
and then he has. It sucks that you know that because he doesn't come until the very, very end of the show.
You know how I know that? I saw him do his one man show this year,
Oh,
and
fuck! What
he
was that like?
it was amazing. I mean, if you've seen any of his one man shows, sort of there's a I think it's one of his shows is on YouTube for free. I think it's very similar material. But yeah,
Okay.
no, it's excellent stuff. He's like the only man you want to hear the only white man you want to hear like rag on like people being offended by things today. He's like the only person who can make that bit work. But yeah, no, he's that was a lot of fun, and he mentioned about filming it. So I so I heard it from him.
Okay, okay. Well, that's great. I will say, just on the topic of John Waters, before I list off a couple things we can wrap up. Um, he has like yeah he has like the I don't understand the people are offended type thing. It's not just that, it's different. Some of it is
Mm,
that he's older and maybe you're getting older, you don't understand every little dynamic socially from younger generations, but he has also gone out and said publicly like when we were young it was cool to be poor, we used to want to kill the rich people.
mm.
So you know nuance. he
No,
mhm.
he,
yeah,
he understands the general problems in
yeah.
the world, which
He
is great.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but he does a very good job of talking about that kind of thing from a very it's definitely from his perspective, and he brings it. He's like, I know the context of these things and everything, and here are the things I don't understand. And then the next thing he'll say will be like, yeah, no, he manages it really well. It's the only person I've seen manage to pull it off in that way.
Um,
He's a treasure.
yeah, absolutely. So at TJ Mackey 432, mentioned Hellraiser Bloodline, and then Dalton Bell at Lurchimus mentioned what about Tremors Bloodlines? And I thought, wait a second, which one is that? Is that the last one? No, no, that's one of the two with Jamie Kennedy as Michael Gross's son. And those are bad movies. But I do love I would say about four out of no. five out of the seven Tremors movies I do love. I love one, two, three, four, and the last one. Even if they're not like great movies, I think they're tons of fun. And the goopy Tremor stuff is always great. Michael Gross is like an American hero in my eyes. Like I was so bummed as I got because I saw the Tremors and Tremors 2 a lot because of the Sci-Fi Channel, right, back in the day. And so as I got older, I was like, oh, everyone knows Michael Gross. This is not the case. No one knows this guy, but he's great. I love him. I love him. And the sequels really are more his movies, and they're tons of fun because of him. Um, yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 gets a lot of play, obviously, and I love that
Mm,
movie too. Yeah, I do think it's my favorite direct sequel. New Nightmare is kind of its own thing, and that's my favorite of that franchise.
yeah.
Um, I would really suggest people revisit four and five. I know people
Mm.
don't like five. They like it less than six, which is crazy to me. Because I think six is so
That
boring.
no six. Fuck six.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
That's what I
Sorry if you
call
like
that.
that out there, but
Yeah,
fuck
sorry.
that movie. That movie does not work. It's so cheap. And apologies to the director of Tank Girl, a movie I love, and a
Mm,
director who has gone on to do work with like Doctor Who and stuff. And I really like her. I do not like Freddy's Dead. But
no.
four and five, I know like I used to brush up against it too because four, spoiler alert, like they kill off the rest of the Dream Warriors in like the first act of the movie, and
Mm,
it becomes like a new ensemble, and then by the third act, it's like the final girl showdown with Freddy. That you're like that's a lot of shit to do in like 90 minutes. I get that, but I really liked rewatching it on the big screen a couple of years ago, and then I
yeah.
revisited it like once a year since then. It kicks so much fucking ass, dude. And like Rennie Harlan's directing the shit out of these set pieces. The new cast of characters are like really likable, even if they don't have as much to do. Like it's a bummer. Like when that poor girl with the asthma gets it, I'm like, fuck, this is sad, you know? Like I feel so bad. And then five, like the smallest body count of the series, but the fucking body horror in that is crazy. Like the stuff with the motorcycle, and it's all like
Oh,
weird.
the motorcycle. That's one of the best. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then it's like weird and gothic in the church stuff because they had to do this again. Another sequel they had to turn out in like 9 months, like Child's Play 3. I think Friday. I mean, yeah, no, Nightmare. Excuse me, Nightmare 5 is much better than Child's Play 3, but like I don't know. That franchise is probably my favorite of the slashers. Like I think Child's Play Chucky is most consistent and I love it very much too. But Nightmare on Elm Street, they're still doing like so much interesting like production work and the set pieces are so
Mm,
inventive. So I'm always
yeah.
really gonna go to bat for those. And I think part of the reason I dislike Freddy is Dead is like it's not very interesting set piece wise. It's like
Mm.
video games are cool. This guy's
Or
gonna
s-
hop around a video game, and he's gonna hop up and down the stairs like he's in a video game, and then he dies. And I'm
yeah.
like, that's not like cool.
Yeah. Or
That's
Super
like
Freddy.
the Super Freddy. I like Super Freddy
Oh, okay.
in Friday Five. I
Wait,
mean,
that's in
Nightmare
five?
Five. Nightmare Five, right?
I thought that was in
No,
six.
no, that's the one where he goes in the comic book, right?
Ugh, okay, it's all blending into one for me now. I was gonna agree with you on five, but now I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Well, I only like it because it's like that's the only place you do that, and then he does kill him like immediately. So,
Hmm,
it's not like it's not one of Freddy's better bits, I'll say. It's just it also wraps up quickly after that. I know some people think it's like a weird pro-life movie, and I don't think that's the angle the
Oh,
movie's going for. I can see why you get that read. Different
yeah.
world at the time. I don't if the director came out and said like, oh yeah, if Stephen Hopkins was like, yeah, I was making a pro-life movie, I'd be like, fuck. But like I don't think that was the intention. It was just like she wants to give birth to this kid. She doesn't want to kill it because it has Freddy. I think, and that's the conflict. The conflict is that,
Mhm.
it's not a real life conflict. Freddy Krueger isn't going to take over your baby. So like it's
Yeah.
different problem. Obviously we're a pro-choice podcast, but yeah, I think that's where I'll plant my flag for today. Nightmare 4 and 5 are like really great sequels that don't really get their due. So I'm sticking to that. And then I'm not going to read out the rest of the tweets. There's a lot of them, and we've been going on for a while, so we should probably wrap up. Max, Jack, thanks for joining me so much. This was a blast. Um, links down to my stuff below. But Max, you've been going on a podcasting roulette lately. Where can people find you and whatever you want to highlight? Go crazy.
So you can find me on a couple of recent podcasts and friends of the show. I did Long Legs and Exorcist 3 with Lindsay. I did Exorcist 3 with Matt Bledsoe over on Film Feast, and I just watched Train to Busan for the first time for Action Addicts. And then also you can find me at the latest episode of Action for Everyone that just came out while we were recording. We had an interview with director Stephen C. Miller for just talking about his filmography and his experiences, and where he's hyping up Werewolves, and we're hoping to have him again when Werewolves comes out. And I'm hopeful we'll get Werewolves before, but we probably won't. So that's going to be awkward. Um, and then you can find me on Twitter and over on the Action for Everyone Discord server, and also on the A40 Twitch whenever I decide to actually fucking stream again.
Hey, I look, if you need a part-time co-host, I'm about to have some free time on Fridays again after all, so let me
I
know.
could eat that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
could do that.
Speaking of the stream, I'm guessing you guys heard the news about Alien Isolation 2,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, how we not
Oh
talk about that?
my God.
Oh, wait. Let me just backtrack really quick to Stephen C. Miller, because we just became Twitter mutuals. Like I'm obviously very hyped for Werewolves, but it's because LA Pride, where the Dodgers love is going crazy right now. And so we were just like liking tweets about the Dodgers, and he was tweeting about the Dodgers, and I was like, fuck yeah, like let's fucking go. And then now we're Twitter pals because of that. So go Dodgers. They better win the World Series. The games have been fucking awesome. I've gotten so into baseball in the last like couple of months, so I'm having a great time. But yes, Alien Isolation sequel, that's happening. I'm going feral. I got rabies. I'm not getting the shot to
Never would have
fix me.
dreamed. It seemed like just a glint in the eye, and it's like it's coming, baby. It'll probably be 5, 7 years, but
Yeah, it'll be a while, but it's
yeah,
Mm.
that's so sick that they're doing it.
yeah,
And like the same like director too, right?
yep,
That's what
same,
gives me hope because
yeah.
Mm.
it could have been like look, like I hear the Dead Space remakes and Silent Hill 2 ended up being really good, apparently, right?
Mm.
But whenever I hear that, I'm always like, it's not the same guys. So like how am I
Yeah,
supposed to trust that, you know? Like
yeah.
I gotta have my guard up. The fact that it's the same guy, I immediately feel at ease and I'm very excited about whatever direction that takes. Those guys know their shit. So but yeah, whoa, what a fucking rebomb to drop on this. That was awesome. Yeah, Jack, where can people find you now?
Yeah, you can find me on Blue Sky at jalexg, Jalexg. Same on you on Letterboxd. And also you can listen to my podcast, that 90s Spider-Man show. We're kind of putting out episodes intermittently. And then we have a Patreon archive of bonus episodes as well, which is just like a lot of movie reviews and that kind of thing. Like we went through all the Blade movies and the TV show and the anime. And that was a lot of fun. Yeah, and then also if you want to see like some weird obscure Spider-Man panels, then you can always follow No Context Spider-Man on Instagram and Blue Sky. And yeah, I think that's it.
All right, and then yeah, links down to everything for me and these guys down below, and we'll be doing a live episode for Halloween. By the way, at least me and Gene will. I think time wise it might not work out for at least Max and stuff like that, but we're just kind of scramble it together because Gene hadn't been on the podcast in a minute because he's been busy, so that'll be his reintroduction to this, and we'll just shoot the shit about Halloween stuff, Venom 3, the romantic comedy of the year. And yeah, we're just gonna shoot the shit for a bit and catch up, and then we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll get a guest on, maybe we won't. But stay tuned. Retrospectives, two retrospectives this week. Lost recaps coming back in November because I saw the engagement heading into spooky season about non-spooky stuff with that, and I was like, well, no one's gonna read this, so let me put it off for a month, and then I'll go back to posting them. Maybe I'll make the whole season available early on to another tier of patrons. But thanks everyone for checking that out. Thanks for checking this out. Like and subscribe. If you didn't like any of the movies we talked about today, like and subscribe anyways because you'll probably find something that you like. So again, thanks everyone. See you professionally, unprofessionally.